Okay, it's because I set this as made for kids, so I don't know how I'm going to be able to get chat in. Let's see how that works. Because I would love to chat with people, but ooh, let's try this. Let's see how that goes. All right. So I've enabled the live chat. We're good. That way, if anyone has any questions, they can ask questions. I hope that everyone keeps it PG and this is a safe space for everyone. Let's see how that goes. I'm just going to put the announcement up. All right. How do I include this live read? There we go. I think I can add my chat here as well. Sorry for those of you who are waiting. I'm going to start in just a couple of minutes. Hope you all chilling. Neat. Yeah, proportions are weird, but that's all right. See how that goes. Cool. All right, we'll get started in a couple of minutes. If anyone is on here and wants to give me some heads up in the chat of how my quality is, just let me know. Welcome. First live stream of the new year. Hello, SJC. So, I know that hopefully some of my students are coming in for this live read. If you're just stumbling upon this, that's cool too. But I hope that you are here because you are going to read Things Fall Apart with me. We're going to read chapters 1 and 2, take some notes, see how that goes. Does this change anything? Yes, it does. That's not cool. So we'll start at approximately 1:30. Give a couple minutes for any students who want to be here. I will start recording. This recording is only going to be... Actually, I should put that. Hey, how's it going? Welcome to my class. Not sure who you are, but welcome, Foxy Gamer. There we go. Yep, we are now recording now, so anyone that misses the live stream will be able to catch it, but I'm not going to start yet. Just chilling and waiting for everyone to show up. So yeah, but please be nice to each other in chat and all that. I'm hoping that this works out well. I'm not gonna lie, like, this is the first time streaming in a bit. Let me know if my voice comes in nice and clear and all that fun stuff. We're gonna be reading. I hope that you can see all this as well. Ooh, that's weird. Hold on. No, what happened to the screen? Come back.
Farewell, sweet cookie cats. I'll always remember the time we spent together.
Miss Hambrick, welcome. We're going to get started in just a few minutes. Oh, Angel, that's right. Welcome. So, Miss Hambrick, this is how it's going to go. I'm going to try and read. I'll start, just a couple minutes after 1:30. I've got my chat up as well. I think you can see it on the screen so that I can record it. Also, because I didn't know what to do with that free space. I hope that my audio is coming around clear as well.
Hush now.
But everything is legible, you know?
This is for you.
There's a little bit of a delay as well in the chat, so if I don't see your question immediately or any of your reactions or input, I apologize. Awesome. I'm glad. I hope that your students were able to get the link. Just a heads up, this is the link. In case you want to share it with any of your students, tell Mr. Dos Santos, Mr. Chance, that's the link in case any of their students want to be part of this read. But I am recording it right now, so in case anyone misses it, they'll be able to see it on my channel at a later time at their convenience. We're going to be doing chapters 1 and 2. I'll do my introductions in a minute, but I hope you all enjoy yourselves and just hanging out with me. It's a great Friday afternoon. How are you guys' days so far? Enjoying your Friday? We're gonna spend the last 30 minutes or hour, 30 minutes together before we clock out. I'm going to be here a little bit past my clock out time and contract time, but or it depends if there's a need or a want. Each chapter was about 10 to 12 minutes, but that was without my commentary, my reactions. So we'll see how it goes. This is the first run through. I'm not expecting it to be perfect. There we go. Hey, that's actually better. Yeah, all right. I think maybe it's better if I have a capture. Oh, how's it going, Slade? Who's Slade? Well, anyways, welcome to my class. Now's as good a time as any to start. Alright. So, welcome everyone to... Oh, let me stop the music on my end. Hold up. There we go. So, welcome everyone to... my classroom, kind of. This is my YouTube live. I'm going to be streaming. I'm going to be reading Things Fall Apart, chapters 1 and 2, live for you, for those of you who are taking English 10, ELA 10, with me, Mr. Ocampo, with Mr. De Los Santos and Miss Hambrick, Mr. Lucas Chance, and with Miss Hanson Robles. Welcome to my stream. I hope that you are able to, hear me correctly and we're able to have some good conversation in this class. We're going to be going for about an hour. I'm going to read chapters 1 and 2 and provide my thoughts while we read and take notes. I'm going to try to do a double entry journal while we do this of important things that might be useful for you in our activities as we read Things Fall Apart. So for those of you who missed the introduction on Things Fall Apart, this is a novel set in the 1800s during the colonization of Africa. We are going to be following the story of a character who is going through the colonization, and they're going to experience some cultural conflict. So I hope that you have your reading ready if you want to follow on your own, or you can follow with me on screen. I hope that you can read this. If you want to introduce yourself in chat, you're more than welcome to. If not, don't worry. This is being recorded, so please be aware for your safety and identity's sake. If you don't want to be known, don't introduce yourself. That's all right. You can just lurk and learn. That's I like that. Lurk and learn. So, but if you do miss out or you need to leave early, there will be a recording available on my YouTube channel afterwards. So don't feel like you have to be here, but if you want to ask questions, you want to react, we can have a good conversation, that's great as well. All right, I'll be checking the chat from time to time, but for the most part, I'm going to be reading this book as I normally would, and I'm going to take notes on it, and explaining things as I go. If you need help understanding anything, please feel free to leave a question in the chat. I am joined by one of my fellow teachers, Miss Hambrick, who's also here to answer questions and keep order. Please be respectful. We don't need any spam or trolling in my chat room. This is a class after all, and we're just trying to learn, especially learn about culture and how we can apply the lessons that we learn to our real life. So without further ado, welcome to my reading of Things Fall Apart, chapters 1 and 2 on this Friday, January 15th. Let's begin. Chapter 1. Okonkwo is well known throughout the 9 villages and even beyond. His fame rested on solid personal achievements. As a young man of 18, he had brought honor to his village by throwing Amalinze the cat. Amalinze was the great wrestler who for 7 years was unbeaten, from Umofia to Umbaino. He was called the cat because his back would never touch the earth. It was this man that Okonkwo threw in a fight which the old men agreed was one of the fiercest, since the founder of their town engaged a spirit of the wild for 7 days and 7 nights. The drums beat and the flutes sang and the spectators held their breath. Amalinze was a wily craftsman, but Okonkwo was as slippery as a fish in water. Every nerve and every muscle stood out on their arms, on their backs and their thighs, and one almost heard them stretching to breaking point. In the end, Okonkwo threw the cat. How's it going, Karina? Hello, welcome. So these first two paragraphs, we're talking about our main character, Okonkwo. Okonkwo is the guy we're going to be following along, and he threw Amalinze the cat. So Amalinze is a wrestler, right? And he's called the cat because, cats always land on their feet, right? That's one of the beliefs. Cats always land on their feet. But Okonkwo was able to throw him. So he already made a name for himself because it's kind of like, the underdog just beat the champion. So we already know Okonkwo is a strong guy. He was able to beat Amalinze the cat. So that means that he was smarter than him. He was stronger than him. So we're getting a little bit about the characterization of Okonkwo, right? That was many years ago, 20 years or more. And during this time, Okonkwo's fame had grown like a bushfire in the Harmattan. He was tall and huge, and his bushy eyebrows and wide nose gave him a very severe look. He breathed heavily, and it was said that, when he slept, his wives and children in their houses could hear him breathe. When he walked, his heels hardly touched the ground, and he seemed to walk on springs as if he was going to pounce on somebody. They should have called him Okonkwo the cat. It was like, he's always like ready to pounce, right? And he did pounce on people quite often. He had a slight stammer, and whenever he would get angry and could not get his words out quickly enough, he would use his fists. He had no patience with unsuccessful men, and he had no patience with his father. Okay, so this one, this is important, okay? He had no patience with unsuccessful men. He had no patience with his father. I'm going to practice going into my double entry journal. There we go. Yes. So this is a quote that I just copied and pasted. I want to say about this. So in a double entry journal, on one side we put our quote, on the other side we put our thoughts. So I'm going to put down, Okonkwo just does not take your BS for lack of a term. He's not patient. Okonkwo is not a patient person. His father might be unsuccessful, right? And you could tell from like his demeanor, from his characterization, Okonkwo seems to have anger problems, right? Because in the story it says that he's all about like he's ready to pounce on people, right? He has a short temper. There we go. He has a short temper. He breathed heavily, and when he slept, his wives and children in their houses could hear him breathe. He has a snoring problem. He's a big guy who snores, and he's got a very severe look. He's tall, huge, and he has a short temper. So I'm already imagining like this really, really angry guy. Unoka, for that was his father's name, had died 10 years ago. Okay, so his father is dead. Okay. In his day, he was lazy and improvident. So we got a little bit about who Okonkwo is. Now we're learning about Unoka, his dad. In his day, he was lazy and improvident and was quite incapable of thinking about tomorrow. If any money came his way, and it seldom did, he immediately bought gourds of palm wine, called round his neighbors, and made merry. He always said that whenever he saw a dead man's mouth, he saw the folly of not eating what one had in one's lifetime. That sounds interesting. Unoka was, of course, a debtor, and he owed every neighbor some money, from a few cowries to quite substantial amounts. All right, so this quote here sounds important. So I think I have these underlines. There we go. A dead man's mouth, he saw the folly of not eating. You know, I think I'm going to shorten it. The folly of not eating what one had in one's lifetime. While you're alive, you could enjoy food, right? But when you're dead, you can't enjoy food anymore. So what this means to me is like Unoka lived the YOLO lifestyle. He wanted to enjoy life while he was alive. You know, so he lived for the present. He wasn't one to be like, all right, you know, I'm going to save my money. I'm going to save up for retirement. He was the type of individual to be like, YOLO. You got to eat now, you know, because once you're dead, right? So that explains why he spent all of his money. And he didn't have any money. He would borrow money from a few cowries. Cowries is their currency. Cowries, like, I think they used shells to quite substantial amounts. So that's their money, cowries. He was tall but very thin and had a slight stoop. All right, so already Unoka is like the exact opposite of Okonkwo. Like Okonkwo is like this beefy dude with muscles and can throw the cat. But Unoka, he's tall and thin and kind of like hunched over. He wore a haggard and mournful look, except when he was drinking or playing on his flute. He was very good on his flute, and his happiest moments were the 2 or 3 moons after the harvest when the village musicians brought their instruments, hung above the fireplace. Unoka would play with them, his face beaming with blessedness and peace. Sometimes, another village would ask Unoka's band, and they're dancing Ogugu. If you remember from class, Ogugu are like spirits. They're dancing Ogugu to come and stay with them and teach them their tunes. They would go to such hosts for as long as 3 to 4 markets, making music and feasting. Unoka loved the good hire and the good fellowship, and he loved this season of the year when the rains had stopped and the sun rose every morning with dazzling beauty, and it was not too hot either, because the cold and dry Harmattan wind was blowing down from the north. Some years, the Harmattan was very severe and a dense haze hung on the atmosphere. Old men and children would then sit round log fires warming their bodies. Unoka loved it all, and he loved the first kites that returned with the dry season, and the children who sang songs of welcome to them. Just a note, kites in this context isn't like the kites that you fly with a string. The kites are actually birds, and you know, they would fly away for the winter and then they would come back. So the kites that returned, he loved watching the birds and the children who sang songs of welcome to them. He would remember his own childhood, how he had often wandered around looking for a kite, sailing leisurely against the blue sky. As soon as he found one, he would sing with his whole being, welcoming it back from its long journey, and asking if it had brought home any lengths of cloth. Not sure what the lengths of cloth thing is, but okay. Unoka he seems like a really carefree guy. He likes enjoying the weather. He likes staring up at the sky and singing at birds. Like, he doesn't seem very serious. He likes music and he likes like parties and having fun. So this guy was Okonkwo's father. All right. We're talking about Okonkwo's father. That was years ago when he was young. Unoka, the grown-up, was a failure. He was poor, and his wife and children had barely enough to eat. That's Okonkwo, his children. Okonkwo grew up with not enough food to eat. People laughed at him because he was a loafer, and they swore never to lend him any more money because he never paid back. But Unoka was such a man that he always succeeded in borrowing more and piling up his debts. He was a loafer, so this guy, like, Unoka's kind of like, I guess he's like later on in his life, he's a useless dad. He's a deadbeat. He's not able to provide for his family. He's useless, and he piles up his debts. And I wonder, like, I mentioned this in class. Do you know anyone that's like that? Someone who just kind of spends their days not really caring about anything, not really thinking about the future, just living in the present, YOLO. Do you anticipate that this might be like them? Like, you know, poor without anything to their name and not able to keep up with responsibilities? That's Unoka, all right? Remember, Okonkwo grew up as Unoka's child who didn't have enough to eat. And I believe the next thing we're going to hear is an example of just how pathetic Unoka is. One day, a neighbor called Okoye came in to see him. He was reclining on a mud bed in his hut playing on his flute. Look, he's doing nothing. Unoka's not doing anything. He's just chilling. He immediately rose and shook hands with Okoye, who then unrolled the goat skin, which he carried under his arm, and sat down. So I guess you bring your own chair, right? Your goat skin. You sit down on the dirt, wherever you go. Unoka went into an inner room and soon returned with a small wooden disc, a plate, containing a kola nut, some alligator pepper, and a lump of white chalk. Okay. I have kola, he announced when he sat down and passed the disc over to his guest. Thank you. He who brings kola brings life. But I think you ought to break it, replied Okoye, passing back the disc. All right, I'm gonna look up real quick. Kola nut. Okay, that's a kola nut. Kola nut is the fruit of the kola tree. Sorry, you guys can't really see it. That are native to tropical rainforests of Africa. The caffeine-containing fruit of the tree is used as a flavoring ingredient in beverages and is the origin of the term cola. Okay, fascinating. So the kola nut is, Karina, you're like me. Yeah, that Unoka sounds like me. All right, fair. I'll take it. So it seems like the kola nut is like coffee, right? So someone comes into your home and you offer them like, hey, you want a bit of coffee? But they don't brew it. They just like, here's the kola nut. That's cool. No, it is for you, I think. And they argue like this for a few moments before Unoka accepted the honor of breaking the kola. So I guess whoever breaks the kola, they're the esteemed guest or whatever. Okoye, meanwhile, took the lump of chalk, drew some lines on the floor, and then painted his big toe. I haven't figured that one out yet. I'll be honest. I don't know what this ritual is, but it's just a greeting. They're greeting each other and becoming comfortable. As he broke the kola, Unoka prayed to their ancestors for life and health, and for protection against their enemies. When they had eaten, they talked about many things, about the heavy rains which were drowning the yams, about the next ancestral feast, and about the impending war with the village of Mbaino. Unoka was never happy when it came to wars. He was in fact a coward and could not bear the sight of blood. All right, this is like key right here. Unoka's a coward and doesn't bear the sight of blood. But what do we learn about his kid, Okonkwo? Okonkwo is a fighter. He wrestles. He's like the exact opposite of Unoka. And so he changed the subject and talked about music, and his face beamed. He could hear in his mind's ear the blood-stirring and intricate rhythms of the ekwe and the udu and the ogene. Okay, I think these are musical instruments. And he could hear his own flute weaving in and out of them, decorating them with a colorful and plaintive tune. The total effect was gay and brisk, but if one picked out the flute as it went up and down and then broke up into short snatches, one saw that there was sorrow and grief there. So he's just imagining himself playing music. This dude, he just hates violence, but he loves music. I can appreciate that. I don't like violence either, but I do love music and I love spending my days. I can relate more to Unoka than I do to Okonkwo. Okoye, so his neighbor friend that came to visit, Okoye was also a musician. He played on the ogene, But he was not a failure like Unoka. He had a large barn full of yams, and he had 3 wives. Okay, I'm going to keep that in mind. That's interesting. So I'm going to put down in parentheses so we know who we're talking about. This is Okoye. So Okoye was not a failure like Unoka. He had a large barn full of yams, and he had 3 wives. And what this tells me, to be successful, you need multiple. It says wives, more than 1 wife. So in this culture, you can have more than 1 wife, and that means if you have more than 1 wife, you are successful. You need multiple wives and yams. That is what you need to be considered rich in this culture, right? You need wives and yams. And now he was going to take the Idamili title, the 3rd highest in the land. Okay, so also a title. So to be successful, yams, women, title. It was a very expensive ceremony, and he was gathering all his resources together. That was in fact the reason why he had come to see Onoka. He cleared his throat and began. Thank you for the cola. You may have heard of the title I intend to take shortly. Having spoken plainly so far, Okoye said the next 6 sentences in Proverbs. Among the Igbo, among the Igbo, the art of conversation is regarded very highly, and Proverbs are the palm oil with which words are eaten. It's like talking in Proverbs is like the salt that you put on food. It makes it better, you know? He's probably a good talker. He's a good speaker. Okoye was a great talker, and he spoke for a long time, skirting around the subject and then hitting it finally. In short, TLDR, he was asking Unoka to return the 200 calories he had borrowed from him more than 2 years before. Bro, that's a long debt. Like 2 years ago, I lent you $200. I need that $200 now because I'm about to have this ceremony, right? That's what's happening. As soon as Unoka understood what his friend was driving at, he burst out laughing. He laughed loud and long, and his voice rang out clear as the ogene, and tears stood in his eyes. His visitor was amazed and sat speechless. At the end, Unoka was able to give an answer between fresh outbursts of mirth. So like imagine this. You let your friend borrow $200 from you 2 years ago, and now you gotta buy that PS5. So you go over to your friend's place and you ask him for that $200, and he just looks at you and starts laughing at you. Like, right? $200? What are you talking about? Unoka's messed up. This guy's a deadbeat. And I think it gets worse. Look at this. Look at that wall, he said, pointing at the far wall of his hut. This is Unoka talking, which was rubbed with red earth so that it shone. Look at those lines of chalk. And Okoye saw groups of short, perpendicular lines drawn in chalk. So like little crosses. Short like crosses. There were 5 groups, and the smallest group had 10 lines. Unoka had a sense of the dramatic, and so he allowed a pause, in which he took a pinch of snuff and sneezed noisily. And then he continued, each group there represents a debt to someone, and each stroke is 100 calories. You see, I owe that man 1,000 calories, but he has not come to wake me up in the morning for it. I shall pay you, but not today. Our elders say that the sun will shine on those who stand before it shines on those who kneel under them. Hold up. I'm going to analyze that real quick. I shall pay my big debts first. And he took another pinch of snuff, as if that was paying the big debts first. Okoye rolled his goat skin and departed. All right, let's break this down here. What is he saying here? The sun will shine on those who stand before it shines on those who kneel under them. So the sun, is like, fortune, right? Those who stand are the people who are able to take care of themselves. Those who kneel are the ones who are like kind of like begging the people. So in my head, it's like a Unoka is like the person kneeling, right? And Okoye is a person standing. Unoka is saying like, um, it's like have pity on me. Like, look, you already got it made in the sun. Don't bother me right now. I'm still trying to get my life together. So it's like Unoka is using this to shame Okoye for even bothering to ask. Because he's still in debt to other people. Right? So that's messed up. He kind of flips it on Okoye, and Okoye is just being honest. Like, yo, just like I lent you some money. Do you have money to give me back? Because I need to do this thing. And Unoka's like, man, how dare you? How dare you? Like, can't you see that I'm struggling here? Shame on you for asking me for money. That's messed up, man. You got it good. You're gonna get a title. You got this barn and you got wives. Like how dare you ask me for money? Like that's messed up, right? Unoka's kind of like a slime. Like he's ugh. I don't like Unoka. Like as carefree as he is, like those kind of people, like ugh, I don't like him. I don't know if you're thinking of anyone in your life right now who's kind of a deadbeat. They just don't really do anything for themselves, and then when you try to ask them for help, they kind of like, shrug you off. Like, man, don't bother me. That's so selfish, right? So Okoye leaves. I think the guy's a decent dude. He doesn't beat him up for not paying up. Okoye is pretty legit. I can respect Okoye. When Unoka died, he had taken no title at all, and he was heavily in debt. Any wonder then that his son Okonkwo was ashamed of him? Fortunately, among these people, a man was judged according to his worth and not according to the worth of his father. Okay, that's good. So in this culture, you're not held accountable for what your parents did. You make your own way. So Okonkwo, he was ashamed of his dad, and he was clearly cut out for great things. He was still young, but he had won fame as the greatest wrestler in the 9 villages. He was a wealthy farmer and had 2 barns full of yarn. There we go. See, yams. You need yams, and he had just married his 3rd wife. So what we know about Okonkwo, he's got yams, he's got 3 wives, and he's got a living. He's a farmer. He's successful, not like Okonkwo, or not like Unoka, his father. To crown it all, he had taken 2 titles. Ooh, he got 2 titles, and shown incredible prowess in 2 intertribal wars. And so, although Okonkwo was still young, he was already one of the greatest men of his time. Age was respected among his people, but achievement was revered. So it doesn't matter how old or how young you are, you have to make something of yourself. As the elders said, if a child wash his hands, he could eat with kings. Okonkwo had clearly washed his hands, and so he ate with kings and elders. This is another quote. If a child washed his hands, he could eat with kings. So I'm going to break that down. It doesn't matter how old you are. It matters what kind of action you take. So like Okonkwo, he is young, but what he achieved in his life, that's what allows him to eat with kings. That's it. Like, you would think to respect Unoka because he's older, but he didn't do anything to earn that respect. But Okoye, he did. Or Okonkwo, he did. These names are going to really confuse me. I'm sorry, guys. And that was how he came to look after the doomed lad who was sacrificed to the village of Umofia by their neighbors to avoid war and bloodshed. That ill-fated lad was called Ikemefuna. This foreshadowing, because it says here that doomed lad and sacrifice, those are not good words to have. Foreshadowing, doomed lad sacrificed. Okay, that's chapter 1, guys. All right, we are halfway through our assigned reading for today. We're also halfway through our time together. It's already 2:00. I hope that this is so clear so far. So what we've got so far in this is we have Okonkwo, who's our main character, our protagonist. We know that he is strong. He's achieved. He's wealthy. He's successful. And part of that is because he grew up with a deadbeat father, Unoka. Unoka, who was a musician. He loved to live life. But at the end of the day, he was pretty much worthless. No titles. He had a wife and kids, but he couldn't provide food for them. And he was always in debt to other people. And then we have Okoye. Okoye, who's kind of like, he's a successful guy. But we don't really know too much. I think Okoye is more of a minor character. So right now we're focused on Okonkwo and Unoka. And they're very, very different. Okay? So that's chapter 1. If you have any questions, please feel free to leave them in the chat. If you have any anything that you were able to come up with that I didn't discuss yet, please let me know. I just need some water real quick. And I'm going to set up my next round of notes because we are in chapter 2. Didn't take as much notes as I thought I would. No. Don't delete the table. Jeez. Oh my God. Okay. We just want to delete the rows. There we go. Keep it nice and simple. We can add more to it, especially if you have any feedback for me. Let's just make, you know what? Let's just do double entry journal. Things fall apart, and we'll just continue it. So that's chapter 1. Here's chapter 2. And we've got a table. There we go. And we're ready to keep going. I hope you're ready to read along with me. I hope this is helping. If you are catching this at a later time, you're watching the video. If you have any questions before class, feel free to email me, ocamprl@nv.ccsd.net. My name is Mr. Ocampo. Or ask your teachers, if you're coming in from another class, ELA 10, please let me know if you have any questions so we can help you out. All right, chapter 2. This is a little bit longer, so I'll try to speed it up so that we don't go over 2:30. Chapter 2. Okonkwo had just blown out the palm oil lamp and stretched himself on his bamboo bed when he heard the ogene of the town crier piercing the still night air. So it's nighttime. It's nighttime, and the ogene is the instrument that I think Okoye plays. And I think I looked this up. The ogene is like a drum, a steel drum. Okay. Gome, 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 gome boomed the hollow metal. Yep, steel drum. Then the crier gave his message, and at the end of it, beat his instrument again. And this was the message: every man of Umofia. Umofia is the village that they live in, Umofia. And I guess the other village that they were about to go war with was Mbaino. So Umofia, that's where Okonkwo lives. Every man of Umofia was asked to gather at the marketplace tomorrow morning. Okonkwo wondered what was amiss, for he knew certainly that something was amiss. He had discerned a clear overtone of tragedy in the crier's voice, and even now he could still hear it as it grew dimmer and dimmer in the distance. So they just got an announcement at night that in the morning they would go to the marketplace and hear an announcement. The night was very quiet. It was always quiet except on moonlight nights. Darkness held a vague terror for these people, even the bravest among them. Children were warned not to whistle at night for fear of evil spirits. Dangerous animals became even more sinister and uncanny in the dark. A snake was never called by its name at night because it would hear. It was called a string. And so on this particular night, as the crier's voice was gradually swallowed up in the distance, silence returned to the world. A vibrant silence, made more intense by the universal trill of a million forest insects. So this is the setting of this is it's not a moonlight night. It's like a new moon, so there's no moon out. And it's like the dark is scary to these people. On a moonlit night, it would be different. the happy voices of children playing in open fields would then be heard, because under the light of the moon, you can see, right? You can see in moonlit nights. And perhaps those not so young would be playing in pairs in less open spaces, and old men and women would remember their youth. So the children go out to play, and then the people who aren't so young, but they're still young, they would be playing on their own in pairs. I think you can get my drift of what's going on here on moonlit nights, right? It's getting a little hot and steamy. And the old men and women would remember when they used to do that too. I hope you're getting the innuendo here. That's why I kind of love this book. It doesn't really leave, it really like, lets it all loose. As the Igbo say, when the moon is shining, the cripple becomes hungry for a walk. What? When the moon is shining, the cripple becomes hungry for a walk. On moonlit nights, even the old can remember when they were young, could do the things young people do. I don't know. That's an interesting quote. But I do know that people were getting frisky on moonlit nights. But this particular night was dark and silent. Okay, so that's a contrast. So the night where we are in the present, where they made that announcement, this particular night was dark and silent. And in all the 9 villages of Mofia, a town crier with his ogene asked every man to be present tomorrow morning. Okonkwo, on his bamboo bed, tried to figure out the nature of the emergency. War with a neighboring clan? That seemed the most likely reason. And he was not afraid of war. He was a man of action, a man of war. Unlike his father, he could stand the look of blood. In Umofia's latest war, he was the first to bring home a human head. Okay. That was his 5th head, and he was not an old man yet. On great occasions, such as the funeral of a village, the funeral of a village celebrity, he drank his palm wine from his first human head. Okay. Let's say he's kind of a beast. So unlike Unoka, like, dude, okay, this culture, he took home a human head and he had it preserved. I think like maybe he carved out the skull and he's drinking wine out of the head at funeral celebrations. Like look at me, I'm this strong, I killed people. Like, that's no lie, that's pretty impressive. Okay. In the morning, the marketplace was full. There must have been about 10,000 men there, all talking in low voices. I can't even get a classroom of 30 kids to hear me. And this is 10,000 people all listening to, before speakers were created. You had one guy just yelling into the wind. At last, Ogbuefi Ezuego stood up in the midst of them and bellowed 4 times, Umofia Kwenu, and on each occasion he faced a different direction and seemed to push the air with a clenched fist. And 10,000 men yelled, "Ya!" each time. And then there was perfect silence. You guys remember in like kindergarten or whatever, when a teacher would say something and then you would respond and then everyone would be quiet? What is one that teacher use? Teacher would say, hand goes up, and then all the kids would say, mouth goes shut, right? Like, hand goes up, mouth goes shut, and then everyone is quiet so they could hear the teacher. I remember doing that when I did, because I used to want to be a kindergarten teacher. Oh my God. So Ogbuefi sounds like an important guy who has a strong voice. is saying Umofia Quenu, and he faces this way, Umofia Quenu, and then everyone's yeah, and then he faces this way, Umofia Quenu, so he can get everyone to hear him, right? There was a perfect silence. Ogbuefi Uzuegu was a powerful orator, someone who speaks, and was always chosen to speak on such occasions. He moved his hand over his white head and stroked his white beard. This is kind of old. And then he adjusted his cloth, which was passed under his right armpit and tied above his left shoulder. So they're wearing a cloth that goes like this, kind of like a toga, kind of like style. Umofia Quenu, he bellowed a fifth time, and the crowd yelled in answer. And then suddenly, like one possessed, he shot out his left hand and pointed in the direction of Mbaino, that's probably the other village, and said through gleaming white teeth, firmly clenched, "Those sons of wild animals have dared to murder a daughter of Umofia." He threw his head down and gnashed his teeth and allowed a murmur of suppressed anger to sweep the crowd. When he began again, the anger on his face was gone, and in its place, a sort of smile hovered, more terrible and more sinister than the anger. And in a clear, unemotional voice, he told Umofia how their daughter had gone to market at Mbaino and had been killed. That woman, said Uzuego, was the wife of Ogbuefi Udo, and he pointed to a man who sat near him with a bowed head. The crowd then shouted with anger and thirst for blood. Okay, so I'm going to copy down. He told Umofia how their daughter had gone to market. Okay, so this is some plot device. We got a conflict here. Conflict with neighboring village Mbaino. All right, cool. And that's kind of the precedent. So they're going to try and figure out what they're going to do. Are they going to go to war? Many others spoke, and at the end it was decided to follow the normal course of action. An ultimatum was immediately dispatched to Mbaino asking them to choose between war on the one hand, and on the other, offer of a young man and a virgin as compensation. So this is regular to them. If you kill one of our own, we either go to war, or you're going to give us a young man and a virgin girl as a compensation. Umofia was feared by all its neighbors. Oh, okay. Umofia was feared by all its neighbors. It was powerful in war and in magic. Its priests and medicine men were feared in all the surrounding country. Its most potent war medicine was as old as the clan itself. Nobody knew how old, but on one point there was general agreement. The active principle in that medicine had been an old woman with one leg. In fact, the medicine itself was called Agadi Nwai, or Old Woman. It had its shrine in the center of Umofia in a cleared spot, and if anybody was so foolhardy as to pass by the shrine after dusk, he was sure to see the old woman hopping about. So they believed that they were the strongest, and they were the strongest because of this war medicine. Basically, I feel like it's like a shrine, maybe like a god or something. But they were protected by power, right? And so the neighboring clans who naturally knew of these things feared Umofia and would not go to war against it without trying a peaceful settlement. And in fairness to Umofia, it should be recorded that it never went to war unless its case was clear and just, and was accepted as such by its oracle, the Oracle of the Hills and the Caves. So before they go to war, I guess they talk to the oracle. I don't know who the oracle is. There were indeed occasions when the oracle had forbidden Umofia to wage a war. If the clan had disobeyed the oracle, they would surely have been beaten, because their dreaded Agadi Nwai would never fight what the Igbo call a fight of blame. So they have their own system of knowing what's right and wrong. Okay. But the war that now threatened was a just war. Even the enemy clan knew that. And so, when Okonkwo of Umofia arrived at Mbaino as the proud and imperial... Oh, Okonkwo. Okonkwo of Umofia arrived at Mbino as the proud and imperious emissary of war. He was treated with great honor and respect, and 2 days later, he returned home with a lad of 15 and a young virgin. The lad's name was Ikemefuna, whose sad story is still told in Umofia to this day. Remember that foreshadowing? This is about this, like partly about the story of Ikemefuna. So we've got Ikemefuna, lad of 15, and a young virgin. Okay, so Okonkwo, he went to the neighboring village and was like, hey, you're either going to go war with us or you're going to give us a little boy and a girl, you know, to pay up for you killing this woman, right? Because everyone is scared of Umofia. They're like, yeah, we don't want war. We don't want war. You got powerful weapons of mass destruction. We're not going to go to war with you. Take this 15-year-old boy named Ikemefuna and this young virgin. The elders, or Ndiche. I'm going to copy that down so that I know, because it's a vocabulary. There we go. The elders, or Ndiche, met to hear a report of Okonkwo's mission. At the end, they decided, as everyone knew they would, that the girl should go to Ogbuefi Udo to replace his murdered wife. All right, so the girl replaces the wife of Ogbuefi Udo. As for the boy, he belonged to the clan as a whole, and there was no hurry to decide his fate. Okonkwo was, therefore, asked on behalf of the clan to look after him in the interim, and so, for 3 years, Ikemefuna lived in Okonkwo's household. So this boy, we know, is going to have some evil fate fall upon him. And for now, he's going to live with Okonkwo. 15 years old, 3 years. So from the ages of 15 to 18, I'm pretty sure a lot of you fall within that age range. You're living with someone you don't know who just threatened your clan that they would go to war with them because of a murder. So you were forfeited to this clan and now you have to live with a stranger. Fascinating. All right. Okonkwo ruled his household with a heavy hand. His wives, especially the youngest, lived in perpetual fear of his fiery temper. And so did his little children. So this is all about Okonkwo. Characterization of Okonkwo. Gotta remember that. He has a fiery temper. That's going to pop up over and over again. So don't be surprised. Perhaps down in his heart, Okonkwo was not a cruel man. Oh, but his whole life was dominated by fear. The fear of failure and weakness. At least for my students. Remember when I asked you like a while back, I think during like the Halloween season, what are you afraid of? Okonkwo is afraid of failure and of weakness. Where do you think he got that fear? Where do you think he got that fear of failure and weakness? Maybe it was his father? You know, this guy who's weak, without a title, who doesn't like war, and because he loves music but he doesn't get paid, he can't provide for his family. He probably hated his father. And he didn't want to be anything like his father. So he was afraid of being weak. Oh, I'm sorry, folks. That's my phone. My bad. So he is afraid of failure and of weakness. Let's remember that. We discussed in class a tragic hero. You know, how there could be a serious flaw that results in the hero's downfall. This could be the flaw of a tragic hero. It's my thought right there. Okay. It was deeper and more intimate than the fear of evil and capricious gods and of magic, the fear of the forest, and of the forces of nature, malevolent, red in tooth and claw. So Okonkwo, he's got a serious complex. Like, he's got a problem. Like, if he were If he were alive today and he were to talk to a therapist, they'd be like, yo, you gotta let up and stop being afraid of failure. Like, you need to stop being so insecure and stop being like, stop overcompensating. All right. I think that's what that's what they would say. It was not external, but lay deep within himself. Oh yeah, definitely he needs therapy. It was the fear of himself, lest he should be found to resemble his father. Yep, I was right. He doesn't want to be like his dad. Even as a little boy, he had resented his father's failure and weakness, and even now he still remembered how he had suffered when a playmate had told him that his father was Agbala. Ooh. So a friend of his told him, oh, your daddy is worthless. That was how Okonkwo first came to know that Agbala was not only another name for a woman, it could also mean a man who had taken no title. And so, Okonkwo was ruled by one passion, to hate everything that his father Unoka had loved. One of those things was gentleness and another was idleness. Hold up, I'm going to add that. More tragic flaw of Okonkwo. So, I mean, like, I guess that makes sense. He doesn't want to be like his deadbeat father, right? So, you know, you want to be better than the people that raised you, but especially if you hate them, like, have you heard, like, are you in the situation, or do you have any friends who are like, you know, I hate how my parents treated me. I want to be better than them. So when I have my own family, I'm going to do this different, you know? That's kind of like the mindset Okonkwo is, but he's taking it to the next level. Like, he doesn't want to do anything that his father loved. So he probably hates music. Yeah, probably hates music. He probably hates being bored and just staring at the sky. He always wants to work. I'll be honest, Okonkwo kind of sounds like my dad. My dad, he's a hard worker. And he worked his way out of poverty. Like, he brought his family from the Philippines, living in like in a poor village in the Philippines, to here. He owns like houses, and he's got a great retirement, and you know, he's successful, I would say, but it's because he worked hard. He's kind of like Okonkwo. During the planting season, Okonkwo worked daily on his farms from cockcrow until the chickens were to roost. He was a very strong man and rarely felt fatigue. But his wives and young children were not as strong, and so they suffered. But they dared not complain openly. Okonkwo's first son, Nwoye, was then 12 years old, but was already causing his father great anxiety for his incipient laziness. Aha! Okonkwo has a lazy son. It's like saying, like, oh, hey, I'm going to be like Unoka. Oh, my God. At any rate, that was how it looked to his father, and he sought to correct him by constant nagging and beating. And so Nwoye was developing into a sad-faced youth. So we have Nwoye, who's kind of, you know, he doesn't meet his father's standards, because he seems like Unoka because he seems lazy to his dad. Strict father. Let's see how much we got left, because we only got like 8 minutes left. Okay, we got like a page left. We're good. Okonkwo's prosperity was visible in his household. He had a large compound enclosed by, not just a house, compound, many houses, many buildings, enclosed by a thick red wall of earth. His own hut, or obi, stood immediately behind the only gate in the red walls. Each of his 3 wives had her own hut, which together formed a half moon behind the obi. The barn was built on one end of the red walls, and long stacks of yams stood out prosperously in it. At the opposite end of the compound was a shed for the goats, and each wife built a small attachment to her hut for the hens. Near the barn was a small house, the medicine house, or shrine, where Okonkwo kept the wooden symbols of his personal god and of his ancestral spirits. He worshipped them with sacrifices of kola nut, food, and palm wine, and offered prayers to them on behalf of himself, his 3 wives, and 8 children. That's a big family. 3 wives, 8 children. So when the daughter of Umofia was killed in Mbaino, Ikemefuna came into Okonkwo's household. When Okonkwo brought him home that day, he called his most senior wife and handed him over to her. He belongs to the clan, he told her, so look after him. Is he staying with us? She asked. Do what you are told, woman, Okonkwo thundered and stammered. When did you become one of the Indiche of Umofia? And so, Nwoye's mother took Ikemefuna to her hut and asked no more questions. As for the boy himself, he was terribly afraid. He could not understand what was happening to him or what he had done. How could he know that his father had taken a hand in killing a daughter of Umofia? All he knew was that a few men had arrived at their house, conversing with his father in low tones, and at the end, he had been taken out and handed over to a stranger. His mother had wept bitterly, but he had been too surprised to weep, and so the stranger had brought him and a girl a long, long way from home, through lonely forest paths. He did not know who the girl was, and he never saw her again. All right. So that's chapter 2. We learn about what happened, the conflict between Umofia and Mbino, and it basically is resolved. They get a boy and a girl. The girl is gone, and I don't think we hear from her ever again, so don't worry about her. But the boy, Ikemefuna, was given to Okonkwo's first wife, the oldest wife. So he gives Ikemefuna to his first wife and says, "Yo, woman, take care of this boy. He belongs to clan, but he's under our supervision." And that his wife ends up being like, she's the mother of Nwoye. So a couple new characters here. We've got we do not know the name of his most senior wife. We do know that his most senior wife is Nwoye's mom, and Ikemefuna is going to live with them. So Nwoye is Okonkwo's actual son. I think I should add some notes here. Nwoye, Okonkwo's probably firstborn son, seems lazy. Okonkwo is strict with him, so he doesn't grow up to be like Unoka, right? And then we have Ikemefuna. 15-year-old. Oh, and this is 12-year-old. So Ikemefuna is 3 years older than Nwoye. Ikemefuna, 15-year-old boy, surrendered by the village of Mbino to avoid war with Umofia. I don't know how to spell it. Let's see what else. Avoid war with Umofia. He foreshadowed to have a tragic end. So something's gonna happen to him. We know he lives with Okonkwo for 3 years, and then something bad happens to him. And that's it. That's who we got. We got Nwoye, we got Ikemefuna. That's chapters 1 and 2, guys. We were learning a lot about Okonkwo, especially about his whole issue with failure and all that. We are hearing more. It's all setting. We're all getting the setting of what Umofia is, what Okonkwo's household is like. The fact that he has 3 wives and 8 kids. One of them is Nwoye, his son, who he doesn't want to grow up to be like his father Unoka, who is lazy. Ikemefuna joins the household because they had to Mbino had to surrender him so that they wouldn't go to war with Umofia. That's where we're at. So that is the end of our first live stream. Hey Amar, I hope that we just finished chapters 1 and 2 of Things Fall Apart. I hope that you were listening in. If anyone has any questions, I can take them really quickly But I do have another thing to get to. I'm also in charge of Varsity Quiz, and they meet in literally a minute. But I hope you enjoyed this live read, and I hope that this was helpful. I took notes. I think I'll post them in Canvas for next week so you can have them. But hey, and thank you, Miss Hambrick, for being here. I hope that my explanation and my reading helped, everyone present. If you are just watching this on my YouTube, the replay, I hope that this helps you with your reading. We'll be back again next week at 1:30 again, same time for chapters 3 and 4. And if there's something else you want to see me do on here, or want me to try harder to explain or do differently so that your experience is better, just let me know. Let me know in class. Ask your teachers to reach out to me, because I would like, anyone that's taking ELA 10 and reading Things Fall Apart to benefit from this reading. But it's 2:30 now. I don't see any questions pop up. I'm going to end the stream here. I hope you all enjoy your long weekend. Don't forget, Monday we have MLK Day off, so I hope you get some rest, and that you're able to catch up with your work, and that you have a great, safe weekend. And I'll see you all next week for chapters 3 and 4. Take care, everyone. Have a great weekend.